Hey guys, it's Ahmer here, and today I wanted to touch on something. So sometimes all good things come to an end, and that was true when it came to a lot of these Xbox 360 titles. Now this would be a fantastic time to have my top 10 of these series come back today. Have them on the Xbox Series X, or just even have a revival of the series, because these are some fantastic games that I absolutely love, and I know so many people would be happy if these franchises came back. So we'll just jump into it. So my number one would have to be the Left 4 Dead series. I absolutely love this zombie game. This was such a fantastic time playing with all of my friends, as you have this whole entire co-op style, and you have 4 different characters that you get to choose from. They each have a little bit going on with their stories and how the character plays, but this is a fantastic zombie game because this is presented as a movie, and as you're going through these 4 different scenarios, you must get to the extraction zone. So you have to work your way through just battling up against all of these different zombies. There are crazy zombies that are insane as you're going through this, and I love it because there's so many different weapons. Pretty much anything that you could think of, you have access to as a weapon. And I love it because you can actually play as infected, so there is a couple different modes depending on which game you're playing, but you get to act as, the bosses, and you get to take down others. But I just love the details in this game. I love how it had this whole eerie kind of feel towards it, and it was just so much fun playing with your friends, working together, and the boomers, and even the witches. I just loved hearing that. It really got you going in this game. And this was such a fantastic game that I think that we are all waiting for a third to come out. Now, I would have to say that I love both of them, but Left 4 Dead 2 was so much fun. Definitely a great time playing with all of my friends and so many people online, just having a blast going through this. And you could have ultimate replayability because each place that you go through, even though there's only 4, you get to try different things, and you make different decisions that really impact it. But I would love to have a Left 4 Dead 3, so who's with me? And then up next, I would have to say this snowboarding game. So Amped. The Amped series needs to come back. Amped 3 was such a fantastic game, and it really expanded on the first 2, which came out on the original Xbox. But this was kind of a cross between a realistic snowboarding game and a trick style game. So I absolutely loved it. So these 2 on the original Xbox were your more realistic games, natural snowboarding effects, but Amped 3 really stepped it up. They had wacky antics, it had a whole different style, the cutscenes are just crazy and they really stand out, and I absolutely love all of the challenges, the different tricks and different scores. Now some of these are more trick based, as opposed to some of those other snowboarding titles that we know and love, where racing was a big impact. But this one, it really progresses, and I love how you have an option to the snowmobile. So it's just really a lot of fun going through, just playing, and it's just unfortunate that we don't have an Amped 4 in today's time. Amped 4 could have been the go-to snowboarding racing and trick style game, and this would have been a really fun one to add onto the newer consoles and just see what would have been next, because they really progressed and they just came out with something that was on top. This is one of the snowboarding games that you think of when you hear that, and this was just a fun time back in the day. Then on to this series right here, we have F.E.A.R. So having all of these, F.E.A.R 1, 2, 3, and F.E.A.R Files. This was a fantastic series that I really feel they could have brought back, or even remastered or something. We would have loved that. So I love how you have these different horror elements. I wouldn't say that this is a true horror game, but it definitely is pretty classic, and that little girl was definitely terrifying. There were so many of these jump scares when I played this. Now, I really enjoyed this series, but I had so much fun in the first game. I felt that one was definitely really scary. I would say that one was probably the best one in my opinion, because the environments were amazing. The lighting really honed in on that whole horror vibe, and the gameplay was great. You had some of the smartest AI, and just those jump scares, I still think about those as I was playing through the first game. But I love how they just continued on with this series. They added more and more. So F.E.A.R 3 unfortunately just didn't do as well, so I would have to say that that's the one that probably killed it in the series, but I feel like they could really turn that around. So there is more action. It did, take place after, which was a little bit confusing in the story, but overall I would say that this is a fantastic series that I feel like if they put a little bit more into, we could have a F.E.A.R 4 today, or even just something that could clean up some of these games and expansions that they had for this. And then on to another series. This one was such a fun co-op style where you and your friends can play. We have Army of Two. Now this one we have Army of Two, The 40th Day, and Army of Two, The Devil's Cartel. So with these three games here, this was something that I had not seen before. You had this third-person shooter with this unique co-op style, and I love how they added something very different in this game. You had the whole aggro. So this was coordinated between you and the other person, but this was such a fun game. So as you're playing through like Alpha and Bravo, two mercenaries that are fighting through war, this whole political turmoil and conspiracy, you had different missions, different tactics, and the co-op was very intuitive with this game. All of these different missions in the gameplay with the campaign, and then this game just turned into so much fun. Now, each one was a little bit different, and I would have to say that the third one, The Devil's Cartel, wasn't the best, but I would say overall you could have a blast playing this, and I would love to see what they could do on a newer system and just see if they could bring back this series, bring back the fun, the crazy stuff that was going on in here, and just working together as a team. I felt like this could be something that really comes back on the Xbox Series X. And then on to Mercenaries. This was such a fun, destructive game that started on the original Xbox and came over to the Xbox 360. And they improved so much in this game, but it really didn't feel like the first one, but this was such a fun time regardless. So this is one that I'm shocked that we don't have a Mercenaries 3. So this reminded me of GTA, and it was a lot of fun because you had mercenaries and corrupt leaders. You had like destruction everywhere, so much explosion, and everything can be exploded in this game. This was definitely a fun time because it had this whole like open world style, and it was pretty advanced for its time. So I like in the second one how you had the different pirates, and it added boats. You had like swimming, different vehicles, different things like that. It really added quite a bit to the entire story. And this was a lot of fun because you got to go through and work with different factions. So depending on what you enjoy, you get to have different parts and different things in the game. So this one was definitely a lot of fun that I feel like they could really expand on. And I feel like this was something a lot different. Just the whole premise of the game was so much fun, and I could see how there could be a third one that would really advance and just continue on with this fun style. This one is a game that I can never recommend enough. This is Split Second. Now, when you think of a Disney game, you think of something that wouldn't be as realistic or destructive as this one. This is ultimate fun because you have, this fast, quick-paced racing game where speed really plays a part, but just in a matter of a split second, a lot can change. You can use different points and things that you accumulate as you're racing around to wreck other people. And you have to be mindful because the maps can change up, whether you do it or someone else does, and you have to make that split decision to, route yourself around the explosions, move because some of the tracks might move or just change up on you. And you have to be very careful as you're going through this because you don't want to be the one who gets wrecked. But there are tons of explosions. This really does feel like you have ultimate control because you can make the power plays in this game. And it's just a lot of fun because you get to take out a lot of your opponents. And even like the single player campaign mode is fantastic as well. But I would have to say, just playing with your friends, having a blast, making those power plays, making those power moves, and just worrying about how the map changes up, different things that can really get you wrecked, and you can just have a blast doing it. This was ultimately one of my favorites to go through and just play for countless hours and really make some enemies playing this game. Just a great one, and I would love to see another one. It's so sad that this one ended right here where it started. Then on to this game, we have Fuzion Frenzy and Fuzion Frenzy 2. So the second one is pretty much what killed this whole series. But this was something that back in the day on the original Xbox, they were competing with those Mario Party games. This was such a blast, and it really got you pumped up. Just the announcer himself probably brought the most joy to this game. But there were so many different mini games that you have to go through. So you're competing in this tournament of mini games, and whoever wins at the end, is the winner. So ultimately you have different, parts where you can race around in these caged balls. You have different orbs that you have to collect. You get to knock different people off of the platform, and the last man standing is who wins. There's tons of different platforms. The music just gets you pumped up and riled up. You have different things stuck in your head. And even the intro, Fuzion Frenzy, that just sticks in your head. But I love how you get to run, duck, jump, and, just the winner is who wins. But sadly, the second one only had 40-some games, 7 planets. I felt like they tried to expand too much. They had a different style, different vibe, and it just didn't have the same effect with that announcer. So I would have to say that I would love to see this come back for pure nostalgia reasons. I'd love to see a Fuzion Frenzy 3, but they would have to stick closer to the first game and maybe try and tweak some things that could make it feel so much better on the newest system. Then on to this racing franchise. This just also died off. So Project Gotham Racing. They would be fantastic if we had a 5. But here we have the first 4, and some of these are on the original Xbox, the first 2, and then the second 2 were on the Xbox 360. But I liked how, Xbox used to be that console where you'd have these fantastic racing games on. You'd have this, and you just have quite a few others that you could really enjoy. But this one did something a little bit different because you had that realistic track designs, you had dynamic weather, and more importantly, you could import your own music back in the day. That was just something that I'll always remember. But I love how this is that simulation racing, and it's kind of like that arcadey style as well. But this was so great, and the last one, Project Gotham Racing 4, they added more stuff to it. So you added more and more bikes, just different things so that it wouldn't get repetitive. But these were always so much fun, and I loved back in the day on the original Xbox when they added even more cars, and they just had so much going on. But this is a series that I'm sad to say has died off, and we have not gotten another, and as far as I'm aware, there are no announcements for the 5th one. But this would be a great one to revive on the newest console, and I would be so happy to play it. So if you guys are enjoying this content, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the bell notification because you don't want to miss out on the next video. And then on to Lost Planet. This is a franchise that so many people absolutely love. And this is one that pretty much started on the Xbox 360 and died on it. So when are we going to get a Lost Planet 4? This was definitely a great and fantastic series. Now, the first one was so much fun. It had a lot going on. So you're pretty much playing to survive the environments and these alien creatures. And you are on this cold, cold planet. So you have this third-person shooter, and these harsh weather conditions just really create something that's difficult, but something that's different at the time. So you have so many different vehicles and these giant mechs that you get to work through. And the monsters are just so crazy on the first few games. By the third one, they do get, pretty lackluster. And that was often the least favorite in the bunch of these Lost Planet games because the story was great. It was more of an open world, but it was kind of like a prequel. And I could see how, it just didn't vibe well with the others in this series. But the first game, having that grappling hook, I just remember playing through this and the challenging aspect, and I had not seen another game like this one. So this would be a fun one to revive and just to add another one, on the newest console and just bring back this franchise and all of that nostalgia. Then on to this one, Condemned. This was such a crazy premise of a game, but it was so much fun. So here you have Condemned Criminal Origins and Condemned 2 Bloodshot. So this was this whole investigative horror combat, but it was great because you had this first person melee combat involved, which was very unique at the time, and they really did a great job with it. Now, this has a crazy story. You're pretty much a detective on the hunt for serial killers, and the jump scares alone definitely got me in this game. I remember playing this back in the day, like in the dark, and just jumping so many times as you're working your way through here. But I just really thought that this was fantastic, and I had so much fun with this franchise, and I'm shocked that they never put out a third one. I felt like they could really expand upon the different stories, and they could just keep on going. But this would have been one that I love to see a third installment of, or even brought back. Something like this needs to come back. And then a lot of people would love to see Lost Odyssey come back. This is a bonus one, so this is going to be that Japanese RPG, your turn-based Japanese RPG that is story heavy. There's just so much going on, so you pretty much play as an immortal, and you have to find other immortals, and you get to develop these different relationships throughout the game. And the music is probably one of the best aspects of this game, but there's so much with this deep, complex characters, and the story is fantastic. You have bits of magic with the elements, and you have these different ring buildings, which is very unique because you have 100+ different rings to build that helps you with the battle. And I thought that that was really neat with this game, one that I definitely need to look into and maybe give it a try, but I definitely need tons of time for it. But I would love to see that one actually come back, and I'm sure a lot of people would too. So what games would you say are on your top of that particular era that need to come back on these newer generations, these newer systems? All of those games that just bring those good vibes, that nostalgia, those fun times, whether they're the best game or not, but they really bring so much fun, and you could just play them over and over again. I know that I still remember bits and pieces of each of these games that I went through, and some of those moments will always stand out to me. So I just want to know, what are your top 10 games that you would like to see on the newest generation of consoles? So of course, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Go ahead and check out all of my other videos, and stay tuned for more.